You're listening to How to Stan, the podcast all about both specific fandoms and fandom culture as a whole. For more information about the show and the other show that I do, 17 Karat K-Pop, visit 17karatkpop.weebly.com. You can also go to 17karatkpop.weebly.com/how to stan for more specific information about this podcast. Enjoy the show. If you A, love TikTok but aren't sure why you're obsessed with it, B, have no idea what TikTok is and what the fuss is all about, or C, are just in general fascinated with fandom culture and why people are fans of what they are fans of, this is the episode for you. I'm going to break down a timeline of YouTube culture, the rise and fall of becoming a famous YouTuber, how that went out of style, how being famous on TikTok replaced gaining fame through YouTube. Plus, I'll explain what these content houses like the Hype House and the Sway House are, these creative hubs, and what they mean for the future of social media fame and social media as a whole. Lots to get to, so let's just get right into it by talking about the rise and fall of getting famous on YouTube. There are two specific years that really changed the course of YouTube's history for good: 2006 and 2012. In 2006, Google bought YouTube for $1.6 billion with a B dollars. After Google bought YouTube, technically anything you watched through YouTube was owned by Google, which did not sit well with movie and TV companies who worried about piracy, how you could watch basically anything online for free. So due to the piracy concerns and fears of lawsuits, YouTube really focused more and more on promoting original creators, pointing out, look, we're not like these traditional media outlets. We're something new and different and more democratized. There's no traditional media gatekeeping that stops you from going viral and becoming a star, from having your singing or acting, whatever, to be seen and responded to positively. For anyone to develop a fan base, it's all open to you. That's how YouTube promoted itself, and that's what the heydays of YouTube were all about. People loved that idea that they could become the stars that they looked up to. That lasted until about 2011. In fact, from 2008 to 2011, the amount of YouTube content being uploaded every single minute was about 10 hours worth of content. Then by 2011, it ended up rising to 72. From 10 hours of content to 72 hours of content posted to YouTube every single minute. And by 2011, YouTube collectively had surpassed 1 trillion views. By 2012, it was not super uncommon to hear about a YouTuber quitting their day job and just becoming a YouTuber full-time, making millions of dollars on sponsorships, product placement in their videos, brand ambassadorships and modeling gigs and movie and music gigs that would follow after agents took notice of their YouTube fame. It became a huge jumping off point for people. So many different revenue sources would come through just being a YouTuber as a full-time job. Then came October of 2012. That is when YouTube's algorithm changed. YouTube was feeling increasingly threatened by, at the time, newer concepts like streaming on Netflix. Instead of following the traditional algorithm, which prioritized what was going viral so it could go even more viral, so YouTube would end up then promoting like cat videos and Charlie Bit My Finger type of shticks, changed it to promote not based on virality, but by length. Because they wanted to keep your eyes glued to YouTube as opposed to switching over to streaming. So when they started amplifying longer videos, a lot of YouTubers had to turn on a dime and change their content to be 10 minutes or longer. Some of them were able to adjust, but not all comedy bits and musicians on YouTube and all of them. A lot of their content does not thrive in the same way and land the same way when it's stretched out into longer videos. So some people, it just didn't translate anymore, and they got very frustrated with this change. This really highlighted the cost of this type of work in general because your future is at the whims of the algorithm. One day you could be on the top of the trending list, and the next day you have no idea why no one is watching your video and why it's not visible and why YouTube isn't pushing it into people's recommendation feeds. YouTube tried diversifying its revenue sources in October of 2015 with the launch of YouTube Red, a $9.99 a month subscription service that allowed viewers to get content you couldn't get elsewhere. In 2015, YouTube also more often tried to find ways to thread the needle between staying look, we're a grassroots, easy to get famous on our platform, original channel, original app service for you, And we are the big promoting A-list stars network for you. So to do that, they tried a series of events partnering YouTube stars with more traditional media outlets for YouTube Red, YouTube Premium content. This is when unboxing videos got more popular and overt product placements. At this time, YouTubers were very popular, but if you don't hang out online and you don't watch their content, you wouldn't recognize them when you walked past them on the street. But if you saw that same YouTuber in an ad for Nike or something, or they have a new video on their channel with a clothing haul from the store they partnered with, then you might check out their stuff and know who they are, because it's not about watching for the star, it's about watching for the brand that you like. So that led to an increased following and just visibility for these YouTubers. At the end of the day, YouTube's goal was to earn long-term dividends, expanding the fan bases of their homegrown talent in a brand-friendly, money-making way. 2016 is when a lot of sudden demonetization happened, meaning all of a sudden ads stopped running on certain YouTubers' videos, and so they stopped getting paid for those videos, again showing that the whims of algorithms would affect their career and their profits and their bottom line. YouTube demonetizing a lot of videos was due to changing the requirements you had to meet in order to monetize your video. This happened after there was ratcheted up pressure by outside groups for YouTube to crack down more on offensive content, especially content that could be dangerous, like slander, misinformation, doxing, etc. Instead of changing that algorithm because it was bringing in a lot of viewers for long periods of time, YouTube instead just chose to demonetize specific people they thought were posting the harmful content. Part of the reason people kept being famous YouTubers, though, despite all of this, was that Vine shut down, which was the app where people would post those 6-second videos, 6-second jokes or dance challenges or whatever. So after building a brand off of their 6-second videos that brought in money from merch and those meet and greets and things like that, these Viners didn't want to give up their social media fame, and so they just moved their viewers over to YouTube and started posting on YouTube. This is actually what caused Jake and Logan Paul to have their fame skyrocket, because they transitioned from Vine to YouTube. In 2018, an amplification of what started in 2016 happened, with a lot more demonetizations, and YouTube investing less on talent that was up and coming and just experimenting and giving a chance to underdog accounts. And YouTube's focus was further solidified to be very, very, very lasered in on just the big money-making talent at YouTube, the ones who had built a brand already with their name. So it was not exactly as easy. Anyone couldn't just get famous on YouTube anymore. This was partly due to concerns raised during Dramageddon, which, long story short, I can go into some other time, started in mid-August of 2018 when a beauty YouTuber posted this now infamous picture and caption that caused fans to take sides in a feud. There was a lot of finger-pointing, resurfacing lots of old and offensive social media posts from these different stars, and basically it was kind of turned into a contest to see which celebrity, which famous social media icons deserve to have a downfall moment. I really despise the term cancel culture. It has no meaning now, and I can go on a rant about that another day, but essentially it was kind of about canceling these people. It was all about shaming them. This is another downside of YouTube fame that people probably underestimate the impact of. If your career is built on social media, you have to be prepared for your past to resurface online and follow you. Knowing your posts won't age well is not the sole reason to not post offensive stuff, of course, but you know what I mean. So YouTube realized we could keep investing in original creators, but that leads to a lot of headaches on our end. So suddenly those brands don't want to work with not just them, but YouTube, period. All those YouTubers are put into one category as all bad. All it takes is one resurfaced post overnight to cause the downfall of their career. We want no part in that. So they took a better safe than sorry approach, focusing a lot on just promoting the talent they thought was so popular at this point from YouTube that those stars could weather any PR storm. So in 2018, monetization guidelines were made even more stringent than before, and this led to more demonetizations. This led to a lot of underdog YouTubers just quitting or being just in general fed up with YouTube, because now they were both not getting money for their videos or even from YouTube just helping promote them. So in sum, this timeline shows how over the years, YouTube became more and more focused on endorsing the work of YouTubers whose videos were guaranteed to go viral, and less inclined to take a chance on up-and-comers. which led to some YouTubers to quit, deciding the money and time they were putting into their videos was too undervalued and wasn't worth the low compensation. So when people say, both viewers and creators, that YouTube just isn't the same as it once was, that's true in many senses, not just a gut feeling. In a technical sense, in a financial strategy sense, in an algorithmic sense, it is not the platform it once was. The focus pivoted from boosting just what was popular to focus on keeping you glued to the screen in these addicting YouTube binges and investing more and more in certain creators while trying to protect a brand identity, mixing hey we're accessible and hey we're exclusive and connected to A-listers. To put it in a shorter way, what originally made YouTube stand out from other networks and apps was gone. It just became another streaming service in a lot of ways. Just like traditional media now, they had gatekeeping, restrictions on creators, a focus on household names. Power was no longer as much in the hands of individuals as it once was. Frankly, I think this was only a matter of time, because YouTube was bound to increasingly see streaming services as a serious competition and focus more on their financial bottom line during decision-making, as opposed to preserving the company's original mission and value. Its foundation is now less of a moral mission, and now more a marketing-based one. It's all just about this uncertain future of the entertainment industry that makes people not want to take those leaps of faith. Who can bounce back and who can't from these types of things? Because some people never recover their follower counts after a scandal, other people do the next day. It was just a total shift in values that didn't align with one another, and the coordination of sponsorship deals and things like that, the cooperation, the shared goals, it was just all discombobulated. In that overall sense that in the grand scheme of things, this whole YouTuber industry, as you could call it, was so short, really brought home the fact that maybe this is something we tried out for a spin, but maybe it won't come back. People are don't want to live with that kind of level of unpredictability in the future of this industry. It's hard to invest in when you don't know what's happening. It's all up in the air, and it could be over the next day. You could have 15 seconds of fame. What really swooped in now as the new thing is getting famous on TikTok. This basically took the original spirit of YouTube that people loved so much and put it on TikTok. It made it super easy to go viral and feel like a star because you just had to be featured on the For You page once and you could go viral. You didn't need to build up a follower base for too long and you could get quick fame. That's how Charli D'Amelio really got started. She got featured on the For You page for her dance videos, and the rest is history. So here's a quick overview of the most famous faces you'll see on TikTok. Charli D'Amelio is the most famous person on TikTok. She has over 101 million followers now and is the most followed account. She started posting just as a 15-year-old girl from Connecticut. She's actually always been known for the dance videos. Always had pro dancer goals. She got famous for TikTok Dance Challenge videos. She got a huge increase in followers thanks to the boost from TikTok. She got on the For You page, which is emblematic of how TikTok is doing what YouTube said they would do and were doing in the original days. Her sister Dixie now has 38 million followers and got famous at the age of 18. They have a new reality show in the works from the people behind American Idol and 90 Day Fiancé. Charli and Dixie together have a podcast and makeup and a Hollister collection. Charli has several signature drinks from Dunkin' Donuts. Dixie has a budding music career, all thanks to TikTok. Addison Rae is also being welcomed into traditional media. The other night she performed on Jimmy Fallon's show, her debut single, and she also has a movie coming to Netflix soon. She has 2.8 million followers on TikTok, and after she moved into the Hype House, that rose to 13.8 million. Now it's at 78.3, so this is just stratospheric growth. She also dated this guy from a rival content house, Bryce Hall. We'll get to him later. Chase and Thomas co-founded the Hype House with Daisy, who claims they never gave her credit. Chase got famous at age 17 for his lip-syncing and dance videos. And Thomas actually was in the YouTube content house, the Team 10 group. He had 3.5 million, joined the Hype House, surpassed 8 million from that. Thomas, meanwhile, has 8.1 million followers. So what are these content houses? YouTubers had famous content houses as well, where a group of creators lives together or, in general, has a shared space they spend most of their days recording and filming. So professional YouTubers would live together in giant mansions. They would each have space to work on material and film it, and that became a big trend in LA. Team 10 is probably the most well-known of the YouTube houses. That was led by the Paul brothers and started in 2017, featuring 10 famous YouTubers and their content. Then there was the Clout House, which rented a $12 million mansion. The O2L House, the Our Second Life group, they were working collectively, actually, not on individual projects. So they used this joint Our Second Life account. That started back in 2014. And now the new big thing is TikTok content houses. So you have the Hype House, which had, at one point, 21 people associated with it, and 4 people living there full-time, but otherwise it's typically a full house all day long. The Hype House is actually located where the Clout House used to be. It's the former Clout House. And they actually, fun fact, wanted to name it House of Olympus, but now it's called Hype House. And that went viral, and people were freaking out over this new content house. Hashtag Hype House started trending on Twitter right away. They surpassed 3 million TikTok followers on the Hype House specific account in less than 2 weeks, and within the first month they reached 1 million Instagram followers. So they started making content together in this big gated mansion, and they rented this area with their filming in mind. So they wanted a place out of the way from prying eyes. They wanted a place with a lot of sunlight, a lot of good lighting for filming, and of course lots of mirror selfies in the now famous TikTok bathroom. They insist this is not some kind of party house for young people. Although when this started, their ages ranged from 15 to 22, so it kind of is like a college experience, but they insist that they're there for work. They treat this as a full-time job, and you have to be posting content every day or they'll kick you out. Editing, uploading, promoting, you don't get a day off in the Hype House if you want to live there. They also have rules like no unannounced guests, no unannounced parties. If you break something, you have to replace it within 15 days of breaking it. You have to be careful about your image, like don't be seen with someone who people will speculate about dating. If you're dating each other just for being in the room together, be aware of those optics. And that big rule is that you have to keep posting content every day. What makes Hype House different from Team 10 is not just the fact these guys are TikTokers and they were YouTubers. In the Team 10 house, the Paul brothers ran the show, and a percent of any money you made on your content went to them, or went to, in general, the house. Here, there is no direct leader. Thomas and Chase take on those roles, like organizing schedules and recruiting new talent for this place. So they're kind of like the unofficial parents of the group, but they don't take your money, so when you make money off of your content, you get to keep it. One of the rival content houses is called the Sway House. And so when Addison from the Hype House started dating Bryce from the Sway House, naturally that was just drama people went crazy over. Sway House is just a group of 6 guys, and instead of them just leasing this themselves, a talent company actually owns the place they can now call home, which is a 7,800 square foot Bel Air mansion. When it started, they ranged in age from 17 to 21. They've had several huge controversies already and scandalous moments. 2 of them got arrested for drug possession during a cross-country road trip, and this was during the middle of the pandemic. It still is, but you know what I mean. During a peak in May of 2020. They've also still been partying despite the pandemic. What a lot of people do is what the Hype House did. They pick an area that's away from other people. They didn't. They chose to move into a house in a residential neighborhood. So all hours of the night, there's music and lots of noise. The neighbors have to deal with people constantly ringing their doorbell, thinking it's the Sway House, but it's not. There's a lot of foot traffic now in that area. A lot of delivery trucks come and go all the time. The CEO of Talent X Entertainment, Warren Lentz, said, quote, "To our knowledge, there have been no formal noise complaints. We have been in frequent communication with both the LAPD and City Council to ensure the safety of the neighborhood. Some people have actually moved out of the neighborhood thanks to them." There's the Drip House. The Drip House is a content house with an indoor waterfall, hence the name, I guess. Their goal is more on musical talent, and they want to seek a merger between brands and musical talent that goes with them. They've also had their fair share of drama, an upset landlord, unpaid rent, tensions boiling over with their management, a lot of issues. Daisy Keach co-founded her own media group, and now she gets to call home a $30 million mansion. This is actually a string of content houses that she created. So there's Clubhouse BH, Clubhouse Europe, and Not a Content House. It is a content house, but it's called Not a Content House. Here's where things get extra weird. A Chinese healthcare company bought Clubhouse Media. Yes, a Chinese healthcare company decided to acquire this New Jersey-based media group and now dropped their healthcare premise entirely, which was actually not just a premise, it was who they were. Now they focus on media only. To put a finer point on this weirdness, this hospital bought 3 content houses, is basically what happened. They have also had their fair share of drama. 5 members left very quickly, one after the other. 3 of them actually in the span of 2 days. And there was this other offshoot called Top Talent House, which ended up getting folded into Clubhouse Media thanks to some accusations in the Top Talent House. A minor was actually removed from the premises by authorities, not allowed to stay there anymore. So if any of these content houses stays and avoids scandals and incidents, my guess is it would be Hype House. In addition to houses, there's also the first TikTok commune that exists. This is called the Garden Commune, and it's located in Tennessee. This collective is a group of people who gained fame on TikTok for basically just living as a group in a commune. They live off the grid. They basically live this 100% sustainable living life. They have a compostable toilet and everything. They live and work together. They have their own little schoolhouse. They grow their own food. It's kind of Little House on the Prairie-esque, only in this century, and a little bit creepier sometimes. This account is called @TreeIsAlive. And Tree is Alive is new, but the Garden Commune itself has been around for over a decade. It just really became popular recently, thanks to TikTok, with over 79,000 followers now and over 500,000 total likes. The speaker in the video is the commune's founder, Patrick. And he first discovered the group after he attended this rainbow gathering, which is basically an event where people temporarily live together. It's a rainbow gathering. It's a gathering of people who believe in the same values when it comes to respecting the natural world, maybe living off the grid, things like that. So they live together somewhere in a remote location like a forest. It had up to 40 members at one point, and they are all seen together in hobbies that have led people to think it's a cult, with things like drinking out of the same bottle they pass around in a circle, having seance-type rituals, claiming to be vegan but then eating a stray cat who killed their chickens. One girl was caught, graphic detail here if you want to skip ahead 20 seconds, one girl was caught in one TikTok wearing a dog carcass as her skirt. There is even a full TikTok account now dedicated to exposing this TikTok account for alleged mistreatment of animals and images of carcasses and things like that. But the official mission statement is, quote, to provide land to individuals, families, and travelers to learn, teach, and experiment in a variety of sustainable and self-sufficient living skills. What made people extra feel like people were there against their will or had been dragged into it and couldn't get out is the fact that it is so overtly an ad for the commune. The TikToks are encouraging you to join, so they end their TikToks by telling the address fully of where the commune is so you can go live there with them and just show up and move in. So it has disturbed a lot of people, and then there's the actual location, which is near a sundown town, which is really known to be dangerous for black people after dark. So it's a shady area, and with seance-type situations going on, there are a lot of concerns. So this group has responded on TikTok, naturally, saying, quote, it's strange for us to have this experience where we're feeling like we're being attacked for trying to help people, to educate people about self-sustainability and off-grid living, unquote. Just a quick aside, this is not necessarily a cult, because there is a difference between a cult and a commune that is actually pretty significant. A cult following believes in a clear, same belief system, but often based on enlightenment. So a spiritual thing, a higher power, one key core leader they all worship no matter what, taking their words for granted no matter what, that would be cult-like thinking. A commune thinks in terms of their values and how they want to live life more broadly, but when it comes to like spiritual enlightenment, they are free to look up to whoever they want, and there's no designated leader that is like a higher power figure in their eyes. So there is a clear difference, and I just thought I would make that clear. So why do people live in these content houses? Promote each other's work, to network, to help expand the reach of their account while promoting someone else. It's very mutually beneficial and quicker than to gain popularity that can really help you have a sustainable career. It's a big launching pad for you very quickly. It truly is an emotional toll, and I think people forget this, but truly, I really personally don't like to brush off the work that, yes, it is work, that TikTok and YouTube stars put out all the time. Because they have to be on every day, They can't wake up and say, I don't feel like it. They, at least according to places like the Hype House, to live there you have to make content every single day. You have to get dialed up for it. You've got to think of a new creative idea. You have to worry about it being not matching up with the algorithm and not doing well, and all those hours of work going to waste. So there are just a million things you got to think about. There's probably the threat of competition, a sense that you'll be forgotten by tomorrow that can grip these people. The general sense of being in the public eye and having internet trolls come after you every day, social media and in-person hate. It really is a job every day to make and film and record something. Hosting 2 podcasts myself, I know what that's like to truly a million different things end up on the cutting room floor and not in the hour or so of content you might get from a creator in a day. So it may look like they just threw something together. I can pretty much guarantee you that's never the case. It's always a lot of prior planning. It's always a lot of different ideas thrown around. It is a full-time job to work on content. That's one of the reasons why they want to live together, to have that shared experience and people to lean on. All the work behind the scenes, when they feel like it's not seen, it helps to know someone is seeing that you're doing that, literally, as well as metaphorically, they see the work you're putting into it. However, there are, of course, a lot of risks with this line of work. Like I said, you're at the whims of algorithms and stuff. Fame is, in general, fleeting. But there are ways to network in a way that could be long-term, and some promise for that is shown through groups like Cabin 6. This is a TikTok collective that is for LGBTQ plus creators. It has around 20 members now, maybe more, maybe less by now, but around 20 is the goal. They held auditions actually for joining them on TikTok. Then there's the Melanin Mansion, which noticed how white the Hype House is and decided to create a house for black content and for black TikTokers to amplify each other's work. This one was actually created by 16-year-olds, so another young group. Then there's the University of Diversity, a group that is meant to highlight marginalized communities, including people of color, LGBTQ plus people. This group has around 30 members now. Dan actually gained TikTok fame with comedy videos, and then he ended up with a deal, before you know it, with Gymshark, the brand. The difference with these collectives that I would argue actually make them more sustainable long-term is the fact that they are not physical locations. So these content houses are just joint accounts. So the different creators that are part of the brand all get access to the same audience, and their stuff gets posted through that team account. So you could have, if you have 30 members in a collective, you could have 30 times the amount of engagement with social media posts, because there are all these fans of one specific member out of the 30, all coming together to view the same content. So it can help you go viral when you have all those other famous faces around you. And it doesn't have a physical location because it's people from all across the country, which could keep the video content more interesting and daily life that you see in those videos more interesting. Not everyone can have a vlog if they all live in the exact same house. And so that is some of the appeal, I think, as well as just the inclusivity. So these TikTok collectives do have more promise, I think. And then, of course, it's just exciting and something to look forward to for fans to see the day that all of these people in the collective meet up in person to film something someday, which is already a plan for the University of Diversity. They want to get together and work on something in LA as soon as possible, presumably post-pandemic. But what is the bigger, deeper picture? What is the fuss with these people? What gives them the X factor and makes people adore them so much and develop a fan base in the first place? There's a term that comes to mind that's used often in sociology, and it's called parasocial relationships. Parasocial relationships are essentially relationships that are one-sided, but they don't feel that way at all. So, like when you're watching a celebrity's Instagram live stream, or you're watching a vlog on YouTube, or their TikTok video, it feels like a friend just sent you a text, or you're video chatting with someone, or FaceTiming, or whatever. It doesn't feel like there's a world of distance between you and a celebrity, and they're so untouchable. Suddenly, they're just talking to you like a friend or family member would, and so subconsciously that's very satisfying, to feel like you're in a relationship with them, whether it's friendship or however you feel about the person. That feeling is just compounded by getting to see them all the time, as frequently as you would see someone you actually interact with in quote-unquote real life. If you think about parasocial relationships when it comes to celebrities and their fans, Tier 1 has the stars who have select meet and greet options, maybe you can see them on tour and concert in person or things like that. But aside from live shows, you're just one in a crowd. They don't have a social media presence or any other way they interact with you. Tier 2 would be, this is all my hypothetical by the way, I'm using the parasocial relationships concept, that's not mine, but I'm just coming up with the tier system right now. Tier 2 would be the celebrities that are on social media, that tweet back at fans, that talk to the Instagram live camera that looks like they're talking right at you, making eye contact, you're sharing a laugh, you're having a conversation online with them, it feels like. And then tier 3 is what I would argue where the TikTok and YouTube stars are. A further compounded sense of a real parasocial relationship. You are having the tier 2 experience, but just at an even greater level. Because they're always up close looking at the camera. Or the kind of content that you would see in a group chat or something that clearly looks homemade and not exactly polished, but that's part of its appeal. Watching people that are quote-unquote just like you makes it a lot easier to consider yourself like a part of their life in a way. It's sort of like feeling like you finally have access to the cool kids table in the cafeteria or something. Like you have permission to hear about the popular girl tell her bestie you all about her day. And then go hang out with her group of friends by watching them do a TikTok dance challenge that you get to learn the steps to. It's ironically a sense of insider information you get from some super well-known people. And that is what I ultimately think separates some influencers from less popular or successful ones. They have that X factor, that knack for making you feel like a friend or a family member or a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. Making you feel like you're in a relationship with them. That personableness and warmth. If you're still skeptical of this whole digital world and like, well, how on earth could you feel that close to someone that you've never met? There's an interesting take on Twitter, just an analysis of Twitter from a paper published by the University of Wisconsin-Madison, which I will link to as I link to my sources on my weekly newsletter always. And this, basically the approach taken is a really interesting argument about how Twitter is a little different from other social media because it's kind of an opt-in thing. So it can facilitate a lot of one-sided relationships. You can comment on and reply and like as many of your favorite celebrities' tweets as you want. They don't have to follow you, and you can keep initiating communication as much as you want. They can choose to engage with you more than others, like through DMs, by following you and giving you permission to DM them. But the point is that you don't need to have them respond to you to feel like they could, and that sense that they can reach back out is exciting enough for some people. And those types of interactions that take place on a place like Twitter, those seemingly boring and pointless things people might post online about their lives that don't seem to have much value, as the paper terms it, build up a social glue that holds relationships together. Relationship building is not just about those big fun outings. It's a lot about the day in and day out effort to just keep communicating about not necessarily the deepest stuff, but just keeping the communication lines open and active. And that is why they're posting content every single day, and it's paying off. As relatable as they may come across, it's also really appealing to watch some of the influencers who have lives we could never relate to, but we want to live vicariously through them. For example, Jeffree Star has a frickin' mansion with a pinball machine and everything. A whole pinball machine room. We like to think we can live like the rich and famous, and they make that goal feel more attainable, seem more attainable by having that intimate, constant communication with you, making you feel like an insider, while maintaining a lavish lifestyle that may be totally different from your own. Ultimately, I think it's satisfying for people to just watch people do things we don't feel like we could do. Whether it's something like a daring prank, or getting free stuff to promote during a vlog clothing haul. We don't live in isolation. Humans pick up on cues from each other about what's cool, what should I buy, what should I do. And so that advice giving is just a lot more overt with the YouTube space, but it's always happening. People influencing your purchases, your lifestyle. And this is just a new form of persuasion that taps into the more emotional side of arguments. Will these content houses blow over as quickly as the YouTube content houses did? Only time will tell, but I could see a few more good years made out of these content houses at least. One is that social media keeps perpetuating every day these relationships you feel like you have with these stars, and these stars keep making moves. This is kind of their new launch platform for stars to expand the reach through TikTok videos, and then they go on to other things like the Netflix movie or your own reality show. You started out on YouTube, now a lot of stars might start out on TikTok. And they also just continuously have more info revealed about them, because there are already tons of Instagram accounts dedicated to unpacking shade and drama they see at this house. It's already turned into a reality show of its own making on Instagram. You can follow along every day for the twists and turns. So it's keeping people's interest. It's not getting boring. The Hype House does have their own reality show on the way as well, called The Hype Life, brought to you by Wheelhouse Entertainment. And Deadline reports, quote, "It will take viewers inside the group's communal mansion in Los Angeles, offering an exclusive fly-on-the-wall look into the glamorous, stressful, and high-speed personal and professional antics of the young stars as they live together, collaborate daily on new content. Each episode of the show will look at their creative endeavors for brands to drama-inducing house meetings and the initiation of new members. It will also look at the housemates' backstories, the sometimes difficult and troubling events that propelled them to TikTok, and the bonds they formed with one another," unquote. Think about the ways they're characterizing it. As you're getting special access to the cool kids' party after school, you are getting exclusive access to what is really happening behind the scenes. It's this feeling of exclusivity that is appealing to some people. And that blend of personal and professional antics, as they describe them, of relatability and that fame and fortune lifestyle. And a bit reminiscent of a fraternity or sorority is the fact that you constantly can see new members get initiated, and it may feel like you want to be the next one to be initiated. I mean, Vinny Hacker already just joined this year in January, so they're still recruiting new members, and they do want this Hype House to just be a schoolhouse of sorts with a new class of freshmen all the time happening. One more interesting wrinkle in the potential future of these content houses. There was one originally for Rihanna's brand, Fenty Beauty and Fashion, where she had 5 TikTok stars that would be into the beauty and fashion space, kind of like beauty YouTubers, but for TikTok. But it didn't even last a full 2 years. And now they say it's temporary, them not being together and it temporarily closed due to the pandemic, but I'm not so sure about that. If the attempt to make a content house that was less about TikTok and more about selling fashion and beauty fails, that indicates that TikTok's formula is not replicable as much as you think. It indicates that this will be kind of like a niche thing, and it will not have to worry about oversaturation with these content houses because you can't replicate it, so they won't feel that competitive edge like people are just trying to compete. Like the streaming wars will not become the content house wars. But it might, if this actually goes back to functioning and thriving. Then who knows, maybe there's a content house for music making, for acting, for painting, whatever. But then does that take away the interest in these houses? If it just becomes a normalized thing to live in one of these content houses, who will watch a reality show about it? It may totally change who's famous and why we're interested in them or not anymore. Thank you all for listening to this breakdown of TikTok and the content houses and what it means for the future of social media fandoms. I will revisit this topic again in a future episode, but that is all for now.